Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be my new Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever first look breakdown. There's a bunch of teasers and scenes that they've been filming we got to look at, so I'll explain what's going on. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs here and a couple really big surprises about characters that I was not expecting to be in the movie. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. They'll be filming the movie for a while, so we will be getting a bunch more scenes from the movie, learning a lot more about what's actually going on with the film. You may have also seen that it is the anniversary of Chadwick Boseman's passing, so may he rest in peace. A lot of the cast and crew have been posting fond memories of him, and obviously Kevin Feige and Ryan Coogler, the director, has spoken a lot about how they're going to use the plot of Black Panther 2 to honor both Chadwick Boseman's memory and the memory of T'Challa, because they will not be recasting the character. And one of the new scenes that we've gotten a look at is in honor of Chadwick Boseman's memory, like there's a big Easter egg honoring his memory. So if you look here, this is just the normal throne room from the Black Panther movie in Avengers Infinity War, but what you might notice is that there's a brand new inscription on the pillars here that was not in the Black Panther movie or Avengers Infinity War. The inscription here is written in their main Wakandan language. They actually have multiple dialects that they speak around the nation of Wakanda, but Wakandan is kind of like their common language that they all speak on top of all the dialects. And in their language, the inscription reads, "Rest in power, King T'Challa, our hero. It has been an honor, Wakanda forever." So it's them saying it's been an honor to Chadwick Boseman in real life, but also within the context of the movie, they're paying honor to his passing. Even though Ryan Coogler and Kevin Feige said that they would honor Chadwick Boseman and T'Challa's memory during the movie, they didn't say exactly what they would be doing to address what happened to the character within the MCU. But I think logically, a lot of us were assuming, because Namor seems like he's such a big part of the film as an antagonist, that they would just pin his death on Namor. I'll address that again in a second when I talk about the other Namor stuff that we gotta look at. But the next really big scene that we actually gotta look at, this first look, is in Cambridge, Massachusetts' MIT. They're filming the movie in Atlanta, but they're making it look like MIT University. And as you probably saw, it's all about introducing a really huge new surprise character I totally didn't expect to be in the movie. So this is Shuri in the middle of a huge chase scene on a motorcycle, jumping it onto a military tank while also being chased by the local police. So you ask, why is Shuri having a huge chase scene through MIT? It's all about the surprise brand new character, Riri Williams, played by Dominique Thorne. That's right, Ironheart is going to get her introduction, or a version of her origin story, during Black Panther 2. This is a scene of Shuri and Okoye spying on her from a distance, just trying to figure out what her deal is. Like you can see Dominique Thorne's Riri Williams just walking across campus in the middle of the day. And this is what she's actually going to look like during the movie. They haven't said how big her character is supposed to be during the film, but these scenes that they're filming here are scenes taken directly out of her origin story with a few minor changes. In the comics, she was an MIT undergrad in their engineering program, and getting to the Iron Man of it all, because she kind of flows from the Iron Man mythology in the comics. The whole connection between her armor and Iron Man, their characters. You remember during the first Iron Man movie, at the beginning when he's getting that award in Vegas, they read a little of his history up to the point when he's a child, when he goes through school, how he created all these advanced engineering designs when he was just a little kid, then eventually graduated from MIT when he was only 16 years old. Big deep cut reference. If you remember that movie Real Genius from the 80s, it's a cool Val Kilmer 80s movie. Imagine Tony Stark is a character during that. And because of when that movie was made, Robert Downey Jr. could have actually shown up during that. Just a bunch of really smart kids in an engineering program getting into all kinds of trouble. Riri Williams doesn't have any of the boozy, ne'er-do-well vibe of Tony Stark. She does get into a lot of trouble, but she's not quite as misbehaved as Tony Stark was growing up. But just like him, and like Shuri in the MCU, she creates all these advanced armor designs, dumpster dive homebrew builds herself a pretty decent armor suit Mark I, while she's in the middle of term at MIT. So you remember Iron Man's Mark I in the cave scene, him coming out? It was this very lo-fi version that he just cobbled together with what he had available. She kind of does her own version of that scene, but some of her designs incorporate Stark Tech cast-offs, stuff that she's managed to salvage. So when she tests the armor, like she has her own version of the cave scene, busting out and flying around, it shows up on Iron Man's detection systems, and he goes to check out what the hell's going on, just playing it off like he's paying a casual visit to his alma mater. You have to imagine a scene kind of like when he was showing off the barf tech during Captain America Civil War, going back to his school, issuing more grant money for the university to just disguise what he was really doing there. But a bunch of time went by, they had their own Civil War II event in the comics, he winds up almost dying, putting his body into stasis, activating a digital AI backup of his consciousness. Now, as far as we know, Robert Downey Jr. isn't coming back to the MCU, which is why it seems like they're sort of incorporating more Black Panther, Wakanda, and Shuri stuff in the Iron Man role that he served during the Ironheart comics. But after a big time jump, Iron Man's AI consciousness shows up to Riri Williams while she's still tinkering with her own armor designs and offers to mentor her, finance her research until she eventually creates the Ironheart armor from the comics, taking that name. So in the Black Panther 2 MCU version of this origin story, they're adding in all the Shuri, Black Panther, and Wakanda stuff. There were a lot of people early on after the first Black Panther movie came out, and they saw that she was basically like a version of Iron Man Tony Stark inside Wakanda, saying, why don't they just make Shuri the MCU version of Ironheart? Because she already creates all these armor suits that are on par with Iron Man's designs using vibranium. She's like the smartest person on the planet next to Iron Man, and eventually Reed Richards when we meet him during the new Fantastic Four movie. But then Marvel announced that they were doing a full-blown Ironheart Disney Plus series and an Armor Wars series with Rhodey, and Chadwick Boseman passed away, so Marvel's plans make a little more sense now with the way they're changing all these adaptations from the comics. Shuri's path in the comics originally was to become the next Black Panther after T'Challa passed the mantle to her. That happened while he was still alive in the comics. At the time, he just felt like being king and being Black Panther was too much for him to do both jobs at 100%, so he passed the mantle of Black Panther to her and just focused on being king of Wakanda for a brief period. Kevin Feige and Ryan Coogler already made it very clear that they're not going to recast T'Challa in the MCU, meaning that the MCU needs a new Black Panther. And right now, without confirmation of a multiverse version of Killmonger showing up, or a secret T'Challa love child with some woman surfacing, Shuri is the best candidate for that. So that's probably the main reason why Shuri just isn't going to become the Ironheart of the MCU. But clearly what it seems like they're changing about Ironheart's backstory is that instead of Iron Man's digital consciousness showing up to peep what she's doing with Stark Tech armor designs, it's Shuri and Okoye showing up to see what she's doing with her technology. Because this is MIT and this has a deep connection to the Iron Man character and so much of her character flows from Iron Man in the comics, I said there'll probably be some Easter eggs for Iron Man during all this. Like Tony Stark did fund a bunch of free education for a ton of kids at MIT and other big schools, ton of scholarships. So it's possible that MCU Riri Williams got into MIT on a version of the Stark Industries internship program, like the big Spider-Man joke. The internship started out as a fake thing, just an excuse that they used to trick Aunt May before she learned the truth about Peter working with Iron Man and the Avengers. Then inside the MCU movies, they actually turned the joke into a real thing, taking those funny pictures to help provide some plausible evidence to hide Spider-Man's identity. Turns out that didn't work too well, but they did wind up using this funny picture as an emotional call to action for him during Avengers Endgame to solve the time travel riddle. But because he's dead in present day, and Robert Downey Jr. doesn't seem like he's rushing to come back anytime soon, they're using Shuri, the Black Panther characters, as part of Riri Williams' origin story. So when she eventually creates her full Ironheart armor, like her version of the Mark 3.0 in the comics, it'll probably be more inspired by vibranium and Wakandan technology. Like they're shifting her character from more of an Iron Man character to more of a Black Panther character. And they'll probably connect the Ironheart Disney Plus series with the Armor Wars series, bringing it back around to the Iron Man of it all. But the Armor Wars series will mostly be based on the original comics, during which Justin Hammer buys a bunch of illegal copies of Iron Man's armor designs, including the really advanced models. They keep bringing back those Marvel Phase 1 characters like the Abomination, so they might bring Justin Hammer back for the MCU version of Armor Wars. But I'm expecting Rhodey to cameo during the Ironheart series when they get to that, like his cameo scene during Falcon and Winter Soldier, so I'm also expecting Ironheart to then show up during the Armor Wars series at some point. But moving into more of the Black Panther versus Namor of it all, the new Namor stuff that we got to look at recently is them filming more underwater scenes for the movie for more of the Atlantean stuff. I've already done a bunch of videos about Namor in the movie, so I'll link them below in the description. There have been a bunch of reports about Tenoch Huerta from Narcos Mexico playing their MCU Namor, and them playing it as more of an antagonist in the MCU. Them doing Namorita, along with a couple Atlantean warlords from the comics. So the way they're just presenting his character, it really does seem like they intend on paying off that Easter egg from Avengers Endgame when Okoye ignored the quote-unquote underwater earthquake.
Reading on those tremors?
It was a mild subduction under the African plate.
Do we have a visual? How are we handling it?
Net. It's an earthquake under the ocean. We handle it by not handling it.
Turns out maybe she should have checked that out. Like I said, my assumption right now for the way they're going to handle T'Challa's character transitioning to the realm of the ancestors is that it'll have something to do with Namor, some sort of retribution that he's seeking. The rivalry between their two characters goes way back in the comics,